But of course, we're glad to have you with us today, Felix.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. How is Nigeria?
Yeah, we're good. We're celebrating our qualification. I had to throw that in.
Of course, I saw it coming, but I must say I'm happy for you and I'm happy at where your football is currently. I envy your national team, if I have to be very, very honest, because you look at what you guys are doing, qualify for the AFCON in Ivory Coast. I was in Ivory Coast. I watched the games. I watched the finals. You got to the finals. Sadly, you lost to a better team in the finals. And you've been able to qualify for another AFCON again. I'm sure hopefully this time around you get to win it, even though you come and rub it in my face. And then you are also in the process of, doing well in the World Cup, in the qualifying series. So for Ghana now, there's two things. Either we make it to the World Cup in Mexico, US, and Canada, and then also appease the fans with the qualification to the CHAN tournament. But it is going to be very difficult, especially when we are coming up against a Nigeria team that we denied qualification at the last chance. So it's going to be very tough. The same thing happened 2 years ago. We are playing the first league in Ghana. The second league will be in Nigeria. I don't know which part of Nigeria, maybe Abuja or Lagos, but and it's going to be very, very tough. And you look at, sometimes you talk about the channel, you want to talk about the strength of the leagues, but it's also very difficult because you don't really get, when it comes to the standard of the West African leagues, it's not as strong and it's not as dominating as we see the South Africans and the North Africans do dominate when it comes to the African terrain. So it is difficult for you to compare the strength of the Nigerian league and that of the Ghanaian league and say that because the Nigerian league, is doing quite well, because the Nigerian league, the Ghana league is doing quite well, probably one team has the upper hand in another. And it is Ghana, Nigeria. Whenever these two teams meet, the form guard is thrown out of the window. So it's going to be a very, very close encounter. I have never been a fan of putting teams into zones, like the way we do zone B zone. I have never been a fan of it. CAF gave their own reason because they showed that whenever we play an all-round qualifier, the weaker countries don't get the opportunity to qualify for tournament. But we are beginning to see that even teams that we used to call them minnows are doing quite well. It's still strange to a lot of people when Ghana find themselves in a group involving Angola, Niger, and Sudan. They couldn't win even a game to qualify for an AFCON competition. So I don't know when the West African bloc, especially those in Zone B, would have to complain to CAF so that we do away with these zones. Because if you look at the Zone B especially, we have stronger countries. There is Nigeria, there is Ivory Coast, there is Burkina Faso, there is Togo, there is Nigeria. These are the stronger countries you can get when it comes to football. Yeah. But how do CAF feel when every time you get to see either Nigeria or Ghana missing out on an AFCON tournament, even at the under 17, under 20, and then a women's competition as well. So it is always difficult when we play these zonal qualifiers. I've never been a fan of it, but hey, I don't determine the fixture. So when it is up, the two countries have to go for it, and then the best side gets to qualify for the AFCON or the CHAN.
We talk about these stronger oppositions, but of course we keep talking about you wanting to be the best. You have to be the best countries out there to emerge as the best candidate for whichever championship you are going into. Now, looking at the rivalry between Ghana and Nigeria, yes, I know it is the home-based players, but I've seen a couple of home-based players right there in Ghana who have done so well, and it's even more scary because playing against Nigeria, it looks like Ghana even have the advantage.
I don't think so. If you look at what even happened in the last qualifiers for the CHAN at the local team level, we did quite well here in Ghana, got to Nigeria, we got the results, we went to penalty shootout. That has been how close it is. It was just a kick away from Ghana missing out. You understand? So it has always been a very close call. There's never been a game where you see Nigeria or Ghana being favorites. I don't know how we even became rivals because we are not even a border country. We don't share borders. There are countries in between Ghana and Nigeria, but we've managed to be rivals, and that has gotten to everything Ghana. not to deviate, but yesterday I was watching the armed forces game in which Nigeria is hosting among security service or the army, and I could see rivalry between Ghana and Nigeria in a boxing ring where the army were competing in boxing. So the rivalry makes it so tight and so close to call out a game involving these two countries. Even when Ghana qualified for the last World Cup in Qatar, we drew here in Ghana, and then we drew in Nigeria, and Ghana got to the World Cup because of the away goal rule. So it has always been tight. And these two teams are not doing quite well on the African continent in terms of the CAF interclub competition. For you to say, or maybe because a Ghanaian team is winning the Champions League or the CAF Confederation Cup, then they have a strong foundation to build their local teams on. But Nigerian teams are not getting to the semis or the group stage, same as Ghanaian teams. It has always been difficult for these West African blocks to get into the group stage or probably win the CAF interclub competition. And another point, I think that if you are playing a competition like CHAN, which involve players that are playing in the domestic league, CAF should rethink about it and say, let's have players that are playing in Africa. It shouldn't be just limited to your league. So let's say Nigerian players that are playing outside Nigeria but in Africa should be given the opportunity to represent their country when it comes to CHAN. It shouldn't be limited to the particular country where they have their leagues ongoing. I think that if you want to, because if it happens so, it means that if you have a Nigerian player that is doing quite well with TP Mazembe or with El Ali in the North Africa, he will be denied the opportunity of playing in the CHAN, because it might be difficult for him to get into a Nigerian team that has a lot of players that are playing in Europe. But if he's playing in Egypt, he should be given the opportunity to represent Nigeria at the CHAN, so far as he's playing in Africa. And I think that is something that CAF should allow to happen maybe in the next two editions or the upcoming edition.
Felix, this last point of yours, it kind of makes sense in a way, because I do believe that in the last 10 years, the Ghana Premier League has not produced a player or players that have been a mainstay in the Black Star squad, as opposed to Nigeria. Even at the last time when we did win our AFCON in 2013, we had a good number of players from our Premier League team, that were involved in that team. So first of all, in your own opinion, do you think that with the quality of players from the Ghana Premier League today, do you think they are good enough to go all the way to win the CHAN? That's my first question for you. And then my second question to you is that, don't you think it's about time that WAFU come together as a whole, we drop these zones, and then we begin to compete with the likes of COSAFA and CESAFA? Because in the last couple of years, those other two bodies, those other two zones, they seem to be doing very well, having even inter-club competitions as well.
Yeah, and you see, I think that for West Africa, we are not really developing our football. The West Africa block zone, A zone, we are not really developing. If you look at COSAFA, they have different competition across. When they started playing COSAFA Cup way before I even went into journalism. They started playing COSAFA Cups way before CAF decided that let's put WAFU in the zone. Way before. So when it comes to the Southern African, Eastern African bloc, they have been investing in their football. If you talk about, I don't want to talk about North Africa because they are advanced. They behave like Europeans. They are investing in the game like Europeans, and that is something that the West African bloc is failing to do. Look at the standard of the Ghana Premier League. We are at our lowest in terms of attendance, in terms of talent. We are having players move from the lower division in Ghana into Europe. Currently, there are two Ghanaian players that are playing for the Barcelona B team. They came out of a well-structured Premier League team. There are other players that are in the lower division that are into Europe. So when it comes to development and putting money in our football, the West African bloc is not doing quite well. But then again, I think that it should be fair that CAF will allow players that are playing on the African continent to play in the CHAN. It is a huge advantage to the North Africans, because you look at Egypt, about 90-80% of El Alis or Zamalek have their players playing in a very strong league, and they are doing quite well in Africa, and they have the best African players from other continents, other countries, I should say, or the best African players that are not Egyptians, but they are playing for Zamalek, they are playing for El Ali. And when it's time for them to represent their country at the CHAN, CAF will say no, because you are not playing in the Nigerian league and you are playing in Egypt, you can't play at CHAN. But El Ali and Zamalek, Egypt can have the luxury of representing the best players from Zamalek and Egypt. Morocco can do same with Raja Casablanca. South Africa can do same with Super Sports or Mamelodi Sundowns. So there is a huge advantage for all these countries that have invested a lot of money in their league, and they are buying the best players from other African countries. So why don't you allow these best players that are not playing in their country but are playing in other African countries to represent them, to represent their country at CHAN? We talk about Nigeria. See, a lot of the local-based players that find themselves in national teams are either goalkeepers or maybe one or two defenders. You look at currently when Ghana played in the last 2 games at the AFCON qualifiers, because 8 Black Star players did not turn up. Local players were given opportunity to play. Razak Simpson plays for Nations. He started in that game. Samuel Afo as well plays for Samates. He started in that game. But when all these players are available or come match when we resume the qualifiers for the World Cup, I don't think these players will get opportunity to play. And I'm sure that when every foreign-based Nigeria player is available, I don't think any local-based Nigerian will get opportunity to play for the Super Eagles. Probably maybe if you're a goalkeeper, you understand. So I think CAF should allow players that are playing on the African continent to play for their countries at CHAN. And for the zonal, I think that it is up to the WACO presidents to push the agenda at the CAF executive level and say, guys, we've tried and tested these zonal qualifiers. I think it is time for us to move on. We've helped in the development of other regional blocks in terms of their football. Because if it happens so, every CAF tournament, apart from the senior national teams, there might be no Nigeria, there might be no Ghana, there might be no Ivory Coast, because you won't, a time will come, you won't get this, because of the zonal qualifiers, it will be difficult to get Nigeria and Ghana at a CHAN. Because definitely they will have to play each other and one has to lose out. So if we want to see the best teams at the AFCON, it should be an open qualifier for every country on the continent. So if it's Egypt coming up against Nigeria, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem at all.
All right, great analysis right there. And I would just, I actually buy into your idea. I would just hope that CAF one day will look into this and rearrange the format of playing the CHAN qualifiers. But thank you very much, Felix Romak, data sports analyst right there, all the way from Ghana. And we look forward to having you yet again. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.